Deanna? Here. Krista?
Here.
Doug?
Yes.
We'll pull some more up.
Right. We have a motion for the approval.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? On the agenda. Right over there. Anyone else like that?
I don't have anything at this time.
Okay, great. We'll move on to item number 5, approval of the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting minutes from March 21st.
I make a motion that.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Now we'll move on to item number 6, Lakeside Church property located at 302 South 2nd Street. Anyone here? You can just move straight to staff, Kathleen.
I'm from the church, but I don't know if you need me to speak. I'm from the funeral home. I hope you approve it.
Kathleen?
Essentially this is Fellowship Church, circa 19, kind of, I guess, backs onto 30 South 2nd Street. Obviously, the current zoning is R2, which permitted the church use. The church is now proposing to sell that building for redevelopment and is requesting a rezoning to C1. We've asked them to amend their boundary for that rezoning, which they've done to include the adjacent half right-of-way. Basically, city policy, we streets wherever possible. So they have made that adjustment to their request, and they have met their requirements for 50% consent. So in order to accommodate that, we need to do a comprehensive plan amendment first. It's the first action because it's shown on the comprehensive plan as a civic use, which if it were a funeral home or other type of commercial use, that doesn't fit. So what we had proposed is just that you approve a designation that would allow commercial, but with civic also being a suitable use, in case it ever redevelops for those purposes as well. Again, they have provided the rezoning. Rezoning to C1 for funeral homes. If you look at that list of permitted uses in the commercial district, you'll see I've highlighted that funeral homes in the C1 are permitted with restriction, and a restriction is saying that if P&Z and council approve it. So we thought that since that's what they're requesting it for, it made sense to take that through at the same time as the rezoning and do it all in one fell swoop, instead of having the rezoning go through and then have to have them come back and ask for that use. Then the other thing was there was some discussion about whether there should be any restrictions to those because once you rezone it to C1, it opens the door to any of those C1 uses. And we kind of highlighted some on that table that so I guess I wanted, before we these recommendations, uses that you'd want restricted, and I'll throw out C1 that would allow, say, restaurants with drive-throughs as an example. And then the property owner would need to agree to whatever restrictions that you're proposing to. So that's kind of what I had in a nutshell.
Can we restrict?
You can.
And I think it's obvious here, but if we do rezone this to the C1, it's already, then that will be the east line already abuts property that's already C1. So it's not like we have a space or a gap.
Right, and again, going to the center line takes care of that issue as well. So yeah, it would be contiguous with the rest of the C1 to the north.
Is there any cremation facilities?
Have to let them
Currently,
speak to that.
no. There's nothing on site currently to make it, per se, a funeral home. I mean, the May 9th meeting will have all of the new plans and drawings for you guys to see. We're going to be adding on an addition garage with a lift in it so you can get bodies and caskets to the basement area. But again, that'll all be a secure entrance that the public would never see.
Let me
Crematory itself
rephrase it. Will there be cremation on site?
We will offer cremation services, but I utilize a different crematory currently. I don't see one being put in there in the future, and if I did, I would build a separate building to do so.
On that same lot,
There's,
in that same property?
on the same there, I mean, eventually, that could potentially be, I don't see that being my goal in the near future, but it could be.
And the vacant lot's not included in the rezoning at this time, so if they would have to come back to that, either of them.
Max, that's on the 3rd Street, okay. Okay.
And just so you guys know too, like I left that out of the proposal, what church and agreement, so if I ever wanted to build a house and speaking with Gary, you know, that lot would potentially work in the house too. So the crematory is not my first priority right there on that lot by any means. The other thing that the future, there's a water cremation that you actually use with alkaline hydrolysis to break the body down. I've been working with the state to try to get that legal in Iowa for quite some time. So if I ever did do a crematory, it wouldn't be with heat and flame. It would be with, it's very green. 13 states have it legal right now. Iowa, it's just in a gray area. So
Where would that water go?
it typically they go to the sewer line. But again, that was way down the road. It's not even legal in Iowa, so that would be all your guys's that we'd have to walk through that one. Yep.
Gary, when they convert this to a different use, it's church right now, right?
Yes.
To a funeral home, don't they need to comply with the American Disabilities Act?
Yes, they will. And they will be putting in ramps and that type of thing. You're absolutely right, and that will be coming through with their site plan improvements.
The other question I had is, along with the funeral home, I'm sure there's some environmental concerns and stuff. I presume that's all through your licensing and approval and stuff for doing the, you know, setting it up and stuff.
Well, I think this particular parcel, given where it's located in our city and given that it's bordered on 3 sides by a current residential area, certainly think that there are some permitted or some uses in the C1 zoning that leave me to be uncomfortable. And funeral home is not one of them. I might add, I don't have any issues with that being a permitted use. But in looking at particularly the ones that are highlighted on this this handout that was put forth by staff, would certainly think that in that particular location with the residential on 3 sides, we would want to, in my opinion, consider restricting those uses on that particular C1 parcel if it was changed to C1. to me, that makes perfect sense.
In other words, just a funeral home.
Oh, there's some other uses that are permitted in C1 that I wouldn't necessarily think, the ones that are unhighlighted, I don't think that they should have to come back to us and ask for those to be a permitted use if they wanted to change to those. So in other words, if they wanted to switch it to a bed and breakfast and they, you know, through the site plan have the parking to support a funeral home, I don't think they should necessarily have to come back to us, you know,
Okay.
10 years down the road to convert it to a bed and breakfast.
How about laundry? It's not highlighted.
I didn't highlight laundry, I mean, I'd leave that.
Aren't there?
And they would have to have parking. I mean, I guess it's, that, again, that's your call, and then I guess, like I said, depends on, you know, if the property owner has a particular opinion one way or another. I guess I've seen old churches turned into like tea room kinds of things. Especially since the parking lot is off of 3rd Street, which is an arterial street, as opposed to if the parking lot was off a residential area and you had to drive through the residential area, I probably would have had more concern, so that's why I didn't go crazy with the highlighter. But again, you guys tell me what you want the ordinance to say.
So the PRs we would want,
That you would, yeah,
and so those are then not included unless we specifically say that they are included.
right, yeah,
So
because
really
if
all
you
we
said
need
it,
to worry about is the Ps on this,
right, yeah, that's true.
with the exception of the funeral home.
Yeah, like I said, I thought that would make sense to just take that. I guess to have a funeral home there. Wanted to make sure we got that approved and didn't have an extra step. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, if you want to pick the one, go through and just kind of say which ones you would be permitted, you know, which you're fine with. I mean, it's like auditoriums and movie theaters. I don't know if you have a heartburn, or, you know, one way or another there. We had listed that as a possibility of not allowing that. Car washes, I thought yeah, vacuums or whatever, the dryers can be quite noisy. Automotive supply, retail, just because sometimes they went outdoor sales with that, you know, tires or displays, so I'd included it for that reason. Banks and financial institutions, I left that in there. Obviously, with a site plan, you'd want, but you'd have a site plan to deal with that. Business offices and agencies, I guess, like I said, from my perspective, I didn't think that would be a problem for neighbors. Libraries, museums, I mean, that's kind of, you know, those types of civic allowed. Is in terms of restricting and not allowing it there. I'd put down drinking establishments, billiard halls, just, it is a permitted with restrictions, so they could come back to you and ask for that, but I was listing, just, I was thinking that maybe that might be an issue for, I don't know if daycares would be, I guess I hadn't included that. Laundrettes, I guess I kind of don't really picture that going to a laundrette. I don't know if that would have any, if there's heartburn on that one, I would think you could include it. Medical offices, I guess, again, I would ever be issued any kind of a office. I guess that seems like a apartments. I guess, yeah, residential apartments located only on the 2nd floor above. I don't know. I mean, that's really more designed for. I don't, you know. I guess you can let me know what you think on that. Single family and 2-family dwellings. You know, I didn't cross it off. I don't see it becoming a single family house. that was the delicatessens, ice cream parlors, and fast food, including carry-out. So it's not drive-throughs, but like a Subway would be fine, a Jimmy John's, you know, that kind of thing where they would come in to a window and not necessarily get set down. Retail, a dairy store, a bakery, retail hardware stores, home improvement type stores, but that it would include the outdoor sales, so you wouldn't have, you know, display areas for playground equipment or, you know, outdoor, any kind of outdoor sales associated with that. Then just retail stores. Really, that's kind of what the rest of them are. Then salons, like hair salons and nail salons, dance studios, both, music studios, and then the warehouse, locker storage, and retail. I'd put that as kind of something to restrict. But so.
No, I think you did a good job, and you know the ones that you have marked in yellow with a P, I certainly would cause me concern if I lived across the street, and that's my standard for these things, I guess. The only other one that might cause me some hesitation would be that laundry, coin-operated laundry. I don't know what other folks think about that.
Get a comment from the audience. Julie, go ahead.
You mentioned parking, as if there was enough parking.
Can you state your name and where you work? Sorry for the record.
I'm Amy Blevins. We actually live in the home next to the church. So for parking, they have the parking lot. There's also parking spots in front of our house and in front of that church on 2nd Street. I was just wondering if that's, when you're including in how much parking they need or something like that, is that included in that?
Best way I can answer that is that will be taken at the time of the site plan. And parking, they may have to add the parking. They may have enough parking as it is currently. We're not taking any parking off the streets or anything that's already in existence. However, they'll have to meet the parking demands that are set forth by the code. And the potential buyer is aware of that.
Okay, so the parking in front of our home right there, is that part of it? We've never known if we owned that spot in front of our home.
You don't, that's on the city street.
So like our neighbor to the, what is that, the north, south? So everybody has that right of way that they mow. That's kind of where our right of way would be.
Correct.
So how is that? Like people don't park in their front yard because there's grass there.
A long time ago, that was designated for parking for whatever reason. Do not know it, but it's part of the street right of way. There is no plans to take that out at this time.
Okay. Thank you.
So if there's overflow parking, yes, they can park on the street in front of other people's homes. Yeah, but we hope to, through our code and through the review of the site plan. But we can put up no parking signs too. Yes, we can. Let's park in front of somebody else's house. Yes, you can.
I don't have.
Yes. That's a good point.
I guess if I might add, I mean, I agree with Ron on the laundry, laundrettes, and so on, in terms of not allowing that. But, you know, because of the property does have residential property around it, even though those on one side are in a C1 setting, it's still residential. And I guess I was kind of going through it. It looked like about the last half of the second page, starting with restaurants through retail, salon, studios, warehouse, I would just not have those permitted, at least at this time. And that can always be changed as the neighborhood changes.
And I agree with you 100%. I like to see all that stuff out.
So you'd rather just take it as funeral home?
alone.
Well, that's the simplest way to do it.
Yeah.
Right. And then if then we don't get any arguments about stuff, and if it should sell for some other reason, then we have the ability to review it at that time and make sure that we feel it's appropriate, you know. I mean, a lot of these things could be okay, like the studios, but yet then music, it could be kind of loud, you know. Dance studios next to them are loud.
Any other discussion?
Want me to do it? All right. I'll move that we approve the rezoning to strictly to funeral home use as defined in our ordinance. And also the 4 recommendations that staff has made, and I'm trying to get the appropriate zoning information here. Looking at the wrong thing. Sorry. That we rezone it from R2 to C1. And would you like me to read the recommendations, or?
Well, we really need a motion first on the comprehensive plan update.
For the, excuse me?
The comp plan update, sir.
Oh, first?
Yeah.
Oh,
Future
okay.
land use.
Right. Well, I so move that we amend the comp plan and update it. And that would be changing the current zoning from R2 to C1, is that correct?
Civic to civic/commercial.
Okay, all right.
Second?
Vogel,
Yes.
Triplett,
Yes.
Bowersock,
Yes.
Sires,
Yes.
Dietz,
Yes.
Pinkham.
Yes. Okay, Gary, we've gone through what, number 1 there on the recommendation, is that right?
Yes, item A is complete. Now I think your motion is remain on the R2 to C1. Restricting it.
Restricting
Okay,
use.
Krista's got it here for me. Okay, let's make a motion on, it's on our agenda, it's item 6B, that recommend approval of rezoning of .88 through to C1.
Second?
Vogel,
Yes.
Triplett,
Yes.
Bowersock,
Yes.
Dietz,
Yes.
Pinkham.
Yes. I wasn't listening, yes.
Oh, sorry, I thought you were motioning.
I still have to vote.
Okay.
It's okay. Okay, we'll make the third motion. Again, this is on the agenda, item 6, and this is C, to consider a motion to recommend approval of funeral home as the only permitted use.
Second?
Vogel,
Yes.
Triplett,
Yes.
Bowersock,
Yes.
Sires,
Yes.
Dietz,
Yes.
Pinkham.
Yes.
Item number 6. Now we'll move on to item number 7, which is the crossroads at the lake,
That's why I don't have one.
previously known as the Colton House property.
Thanks.
Is someone from the audience that wants to address this issue?
For Kimberly Development?
Mike Shamsey with Landmark Engineering Group. And we were here, I believe, 2 months ago with our initial plan for Crossroads at the Lakes. And that night, there were several issues. One being the access management plan for the entrance, which would be our northerly entrance roadway that we had planned between the commercial lots 1 and 2, which we revised that plan. Entrances that lined South 3rd Street and deleted the roadway through there and put a cul-de-sac in for the residential portion. So we addressed that issue. There was a request that the trail be extended to the south on Highway 415 / South 3rd Street, which we have included in the plan, and we relocated the trail behind the homes that meanders through the subdivision. Another issue was the trail right-of-way being 20 foot. That's been revised throughout. In addition, the developer is going to construct the trail from Deer Haven completely through the subdivision to the south end of the development on Highway 415 at his cost of approximately $150,000 to $200,000. Another issue that was brought up was the use of commercial lot 5, which we have agreed to restrictions on that lot, including professional office use. We understand there's probably going to be some more restrictions once we come through site plan approval with lighting to make sure we have no light pollution or lighting meandering off the property, impacting the residential properties around there. Traffic concerns, parking concerns will be addressed at site plan approval. In addition, the roadway from East Bridge off of Highway 415 to Deer Haven subdivision, that roadway was revised to 31 feet as requested. We originally had it in at 26 foot wide back to back, and now that section of roadway is 31 feet. Another issue was Whispering Pines Avenue extension, and we have worked it out with the 2 property owners for vacation of that roadway right-of-way. There'll be utility easements that'll that will be put in place because of the water main and the storm sewer in that section. And we will be doing some improvements along that roadway to satisfy the residents to make it look more like a private drive. There are some issues with stormwater runoff drainage management, and we have been working through our preliminary stormwater management plan. We have had a couple of preliminary submittals to Snyder Engineering, or Snyder Associates, sorry. And we are working through those details until we can get the final construction plans, final grading plans completed, then our stormwater management plan will be finalized. But at the present time, everything we've done there is preliminary. We are proposing the detention basin, approximately 2 acres in size. We're going to route the stormwater part of it to the north and connect on a 24-inch storm sewer that is being proposed in Deer Haven subdivision. And then we're going to tie into a 24-inch storm sewer on East Bridge Road that is being extended as part of Deer Haven's improvements. And we'll connect to the 36-inch storm sewer on Whispering Pines Avenue in the existing Pine Ridge subdivision. So those 3 outlets we'll be using for our discharge points. In our preliminary stormwater management plan that we have proposed, we are incorporating a reduction in instantaneous runoff in all 3 of those areas. The total volume obviously is going to be more, but it's going to be over a longer duration It'll take about 48 hours for the detention basin to dewater during a 100-year event. And we will work through those calculations, and as we work through our plans, those will be finalized and submitted to plans. I believe that addressed most of the issues. Our new plan does incorporate 131 housing units, which is 75 single-family homes and 56 duplex units, the townhome units, twin home units. Our count went up slightly, but the layout changed. We removed the bioswales islands that were on the previous street pattern and added some cul-de-sacs to the south. And the roadway East Bridge Avenue just became a little bit shorter. I believe we addressed all the issues that we discussed, major issues that we discussed at the Planning Commission last time. And we're looking for approval of our plan.
Staff?
Yeah, I guess just kind of touching base on the issues there was some discussion about the increasing the size of the commercial area along Bridge Road. The developer was not interested in changing the footprint of the, making those lots any larger, but they did provide some ideas of some building facades in the memo that you should have had in your packet. Not that he's committing to any one of those, but just to give you an idea of what he was thinking in that area. And we've talked a little bit about having some signage and stuff to kind of dress up the intersection there where they're showing some monument signs, but we don't have the details on that. So that was kind of their way of addressing that issue. And then, like I said, if the restricted uses, again, you can refer to that same thing that we just used for the church to see, but if they were willing to, restrict them to professional and office building uses only, that's probably more restrictive even than what I'd highlighted there. So, and Whispering Pines Avenue there, if the property owners are amenable to taking that right away, then, obviously the city needs to make sure, talk to them as well. We would need to, as a part of the platting, look at the redesign for how that would be designed, and then make sure that there's not like stormwater overflows that need to go through that area. So there's some design issues to work out, but again, that's down the road as a part of the platting process. So staff doesn't have any concerns with that. And with respect to the detention, we'll just look, we don't have a grading plan yet, so we'll work through that as a part of the preliminary platting process and then in more detail on the construction drawings. So, from that perspective, I don't have any issues. There were some, at this point, about 4 minor issues that need to be revised on the drawing. I sent an email to the engineer on April 14th that kind of went over those and actually kind of had a highlighted sketch of the notes, make it clear which notes need to come off. Those we would ask that those all be taken care of before this goes to City Council to set the date of public hearing. Council then set the date of the public hearing, and then at the subsequent meeting would be when they would actually hold the public hearing and the first reading.
I had a question on the adjacent ownership and who would sign off and who hadn't. Do you have a list of those folks you contacted, those residentials that lived around, or who signed off? I know it's 50%, but.
As far as for the zoning, yeah, we turned that in a couple months ago.
Do we have, here.
They did have the 50% on it. It was submitted as 2 different rezonings, which, one rezoning with the perimeter for the C2. So the developer did sign off on some of it. And I apologize, I don't remember either exactly who. I just know they did have to meet the requirement for 50%.
From Platinum Properties signed off on the residential.
Yeah.
Sure.
And the automotive place across the.
Sure. I guess I'm a little more concerned with the residents that live around there and making sure that they're aware of what's going on and.
Sure.
Because
they were notified. They did receive.
Yeah. Pine Ridge Drive and behind, and then.
We had an informational meeting too, and almost all the residents came to that.
And send it out to everyone that borders it.
So all of these individuals have received notification?
Yeah, they would have actually received it before the February meeting as well as this time, so. And we did send, the city did send out notices again, just because there'd been a 2-month lag.
Was there another public meeting supposed to be?
There will be at city council.
At city council.
Yes, so again, assuming you guys approve it now, and I apologize, I can't see the calendar quite. Next week, they would set the date for the public hearing, and then it would be the May, I can't remember.
25th, May 9th would be the actual public hearing and
So
first reading.
notices would be sent out in advance of that May 9th meeting to those same folks.
Well, there is a real drainage issue with this property, and the retention pond is at the highest point in the property. I mean, how do you get water to run uphill? It seems like if we're gonna have detention ponds or something like that, it's gonna be around the perimeter rather than in the center. I don't know. I mean, how is that gonna be managed? Because there's nothing shown in this plat about handling that water.
Yeah, and I guess I would defer to Mr. Shamsi on that. Whether if they over detain or if they would provide a smaller detention. Since residential doesn't have to provide full detention, they may be able to provide some kind of a rear yard pond.
So all the neighbors around there have to put up with all the runoff coming off of that water. There's already a ton of stuff going on.
Well, it will, as the design goes through, it won't be more than what it is now, and should be less because of the fact that the commercial properties have to provide full detention to the 5-year undeveloped release rate. I don't have the exact numbers yet.
Right.
Why would it be less? I mean, you're packing the stuff with concrete and driveways and.
It will be less because of the detention, so they'll be retaining it.
Coming out of it.
And when I'm talking about less, I mean less flow rate, not less flow.
Out of the detention pond?
Yeah,
Is that what you're talking
yeah.
about? But that thing's at the highest point of the property.
Right.
What, are you gonna pump water up there? It comes down to the bottom there, or what?
I'll let Mr. Shamsi speak to that.
But the detention basin is proposed in the creek alignment, and that we will be regrading the site, and we will flow to the basin, and then come out of the basin. It based off our grading plan, it'll work.
Yeah, but the perimeter of that property is quite a bit lower than where it is up there at Casey's. A lot lower.
And we'll be taking the backyard perimeter water and draining to the storm sewers, and the ultimate discharge.
So you're gonna have stormwater drops and stuff along there to handle that, or what?
We'll have stormwater inlets, collecting the stormwater around it, yes.
Is that the same too on Whispering, if you change Whispering Creek, is it Creek or Avenue?
Whispering Pines Avenue?
Yeah.
We're not changing the roadway configuration, anything on that section of roadway. All we're doing is we are going to do some streetscaping and 2 entryway columns that'll mark it as a private drive, and everything else will stay in place. The roadway, the storm sewer, any utilities, and there is a 36-inch layered in section at the westerly end of that street that we'll be tying into. So when we're working with the residents, they didn't want any roadway improvements or any of the roadway tore out. They just wanted to be clearly identified as a private drive, and then ask the developer to clean up the westerly end of it with respect to the berm and the dirt and the mud that's washing onto the roadway, and some of the trees that need to be removed, and to put some trees along the boulevard there to make it look more like a private drive. So that is the proposed improvements, and then all the other public improvements that they're in there now will stay.
I'm skeptical too. I guess I'd like to see how it works. Instead of just telling us it
And
works.
just as a clarification, you will get the chance to see how the drainage works when we have a grading plan and it comes back before you at the time of
What if
preliminary
it doesn't
planning.
work?
Pardon?
What if it doesn't work?
Then they'll have to amend their plan. Then they would have, I mean, if for whatever reason, they can't get the drainage to work so that it meets CDOT and city standards, they would have to amend the plan, which would mean, when they did the preliminary plat, they would have to amend the PUD plan. So,
I'd rather see it work now. I mean, this is like going back and forth and playing ping pong. I'd rather see it worked out and make sure it works before we get into all the rezoning of it and everything, so. Do we have an agreement with the properties that we're talking about here on Whispering Pines, the two properties? Is there a written agreement or?
One of the property owners this here.
Yeah, Tim Rhodes, 930 Gary. We've got a verbal agreement. Yeah, he'll be ready.
Are you concerned about any of the runoff from
I
that
don't have
area?
a problem with
You don't?
it.
It's just those nice folks there? Sorry.
People down there do.
Go ahead.
Ken Herndon, 425 Timberline Drive. We have a problem with the runoff. I know you're saying that the runoff is going to be directed 3 different ways. A part of that will be coming down to the creek that runs behind the homes on Timberline and south of Whispering Pines. We are, and I spoke before the meeting in March, and we have more water now than we can handle. We can't handle any more, and if it breaks down to being a third of the water from that development that comes down our way, that's way more than we can handle. I've got pictures, I've got videos of that water as it comes down through the creek, and it's a danger. It's a danger to the kids in the neighborhood. It's been a lot for us to deal with ourselves and to continue to fix it ourselves. And so I hope that there's another way to do this to take the majority of that water off another direction or divert it another way, because we cannot take any more water. We cannot. It floods the first 2 properties on Timberline. Floods both their backyards. And the only reason it doesn't flood mine is because I put 129 tons of riprap in there. But I think our engineering people think that we could handle the volume, and we can't.
Well, I'm not going to question the engineer's ability to make this work, but I want to see it work before, I want to be shown that it works.
Yes.
Before we proceed.
Thank you.
To start going back to all that. So. There's another property owner here that's Kevin Broker, is that Brocker?
Yeah, and sorry again, I'm kind of representing Kevin because we were both at the same meeting, and that's not a problem with Kevin. We come to the same verbal agreements.
Okay, thanks.
On the commercial properties along the front there, I think the previous submittal had a road coming out to Third. Now it looks like you have 2 entrances into these commercial.
Yeah, and the reason for that was the road they couldn't meet the access management plan. So the 2 entrances they've shown are in the predetermined access points in compliance with the access management plan. So the southerly driveway is directly across from the joint driveway that serves Polk City Professionals, and then the north one is across from an existing residential driveway.
So that was, I mean, so that's per our request.
Yep,
Yeah.
yeah, that meets the access management plan. Before, there was a driveway kind of in between, and then that didn't wind up working with the drives across the way, so that you're kind of stuck with what's already built on the other side in terms of determining your spacing.
The commercial lots are like 230 or so feet deep of usable space, and then a 30-foot or buffer zone. It looks to me like what that does is we're doomed to have a set of strip malls along that front road there, which is something I was hoping not to see. So I guess I'm disappointed with eventuality of seeing, 3 or 4 strip mall buildings along there.
What are you thinking you'd like to see?
Well,
big box stores?
No, not the big, but is there a way to kind of have more of a centralization of the commercial area and then kind of sweeten, bring the residential around it, so we have a little depth to the commercial area instead of all along the road?
Don't think that's feasible, sir. And I'm certainly not willing to take that financial risk. Because I don't think that's feasible.
But you're putting houses there, I mean, that's
I
feasible.
feel good about that risk. I don't feel good about doing a business district. I don't think that that's feasible for this property. I guess the only thing that I would like to say too, to kind of answer Mr. Sire's question, is all we're looking here for is an approval of a zoning concept. Nothing here is finalized. Every step of this development as we proceed is going to have to be fully engineered. The streets, the grading, the stormwater, the water lines, the sewer lines, addressing all the engineering technicalities. Once this plan is like, okay, here's a concept. Nothing's etched in gold with a concept. All we're saying is we'd like to proceed with the zoning so that then I can spend a lot more thousands of dollars and hire him and hire Snyder and Associates to review everything. To ask me to do all of what Mr. Sires has asked, to do all of the stormwater engineering at this point, when we don't even know if this plan is going to be approved, is not reasonable, and I'm not going to do it. And I hope you don't make me do it, because you're going to get a chance to review, and Snyder and Associates is going to get a chance to review everything we do. Every size of pipe, every depth of the pipe, every calculation that I don't understand stormwater management. I'm not going to even try to begin, but these people sure do. And they're going to make sure everything improves the situation for these homeowners in this room and along there. They're certainly not going to allow me to make their water problem worse. That, I think you all sitting here know you're not going to make it worse. And I'm not going to let them make it worse, and they're not going to let me make it worse. So to ask me to do all the grading plans and the stormwater plans and all of, you're talking thousands of dollars before we even know whether this is garbage yet. So all I'm asking here, do you like the concept? Can we agree on the zoning? And then every step of the way of this plating, you're gonna get to see it and approve it. And Snyder and Associates is going to approve everything my engineering firm does. And it's gonna meet every regulation that is out there for stormwater. So all I'm asking, don't overcomplicate this thing in this preliminary state. As far as the commercial buildings, I have no idea, sir, what may come down the road.
I understand that.
And you know, but again, you're going to get the chance and opportunity to approve every site plan and every use and what that building's going to look like. I, as a developer, have to try to develop this land in a reasonable method, and I can, you know, a lot of people don't like multi-tenant shopping centers. I think that they can be beautiful. And they are the lifeblood of the community because they're all these little businesses that service the residents that live around them with restaurants and hair salons and, I mean, you name it. So I don't think the word multi-tenant or strip shopping center, I don't think that's a dirty word or an evil word or puts a blight upon your city. I think there's services that the residents that live here have to have. They don't need a 200,000 square foot building. They need services that when you live here, you can drive to your neighborhood center and they're all there. And you can eat at restaurants and you can do all kinds of things right here in your community. And that's what I see going on that commercial property. Might be an office building too. Might be an insurance, might be a bank that wants to locate in Polk City. I don't know. But I have to develop the ground reasonably intelligent that we can find commercial uses that will fit. Not pipe dreams, not what we'd like to dream that might come here, reality. And that's all I'm trying to do here today is get a concept to get a zoning approved. We're not going to put one more gallon of water down on this man in the back seat here because Snyder's isn't going to let us. And you're going to approve what Snyder comes in here and says, here's what we're doing. This is how we're improving the water situation for these homeowners. We're certainly not going to make it worse. But I can't answer, and neither can he definitively, of exactly the book that will be written of how that gets done today. We just want a zoning approval. That's all we want. So that then we can say, okay, now we're going to go to work and try to produce something and try to do the engineering studies that improve the situation that Snyder's will approve. I hope that makes sense. I've been doing this a real long time. I'm pretty proud of everything I've ever developed and built. My reputation stands for itself. I stand for quality and doing things right. I pay my bills on time. I think people like me in their communities. I want to come to Polk City and I think I can make a great development there. But I don't want to fight you. I don't want to sit here and keep coming back and coming back and coming back and coming back. I want to work together with you. But you got to want to work with me too. This is a two-way street. We can work together and make this a nice development. Or we can butt heads and never go nowhere. I want to work with you. I don't want to make your city worse. I want to make your city better. And you can talk to any city I've ever been in. I think I've done a pretty good job. This is my 38th, maybe going on 39th year I've owned my business. There ain't too many builders in the greater Des Moines area that's been around for as long as I have. I think I've got a darn good reputation. And I hope you want me here. And I ask for your approval of this plan so we can move forward and start answering the question. And you know what? If Michael right here is his plan, if he's all wet on how to do this water, it's gonna become obvious once we go to further engineering. And if we have to change this plan and put the ponds down at the very bottom of the hill because of your concern, and you know what? I hear your concern. I've walked every inch of that land. You may have a very good concern. You know what? If we have to change it, we will. This isn't etched in stone how we're doing this. It's just a concept. If this concept don't work, we're going to change it. So all I'm asking for is let's just move forward, approve the concept, approve the zoning so we can move forward. And then we'll work out those details. And if we have to scrap this plan and throw it away because you're right, and you might be, I don't know, we'll change it. And Snyder's won't let us do this plan if it doesn't work. Does that sound reasonable? I'm a common sense guy. I want to work with you. I'm a common sense guy. We can work this out as we move down the road. But I got to get by first base. Right now I'm still at the plate. And the baseball season's starting. My money clock's running every day. All I ask you is, I want to work with you. I hope you want to work with me, and I ask for your approval of this zoning request so we can move down the road.
One of the questions that we had last time when you were here is why you chose to do commercial up front and not make the whole thing PUD.
Well, because it's pretty obvious that the land out there along 3rd Street should be commercial. So it just made sense that that should be commercial and not muddy up with the residential, and it's two separate distinct uses, so.
Under the PUD, on the commercial, if we included, we would have had to come through the architectural concepts, and we weren't ready for that.
We have no idea what the uses are gonna be, so we can't really say, well, here's the size of the buildings, what they'll look like, and we don't know who will buy those lots. Yes, that's the real reason.
Nothing in hand to bring forward, so it'd be all speculation. We couldn't get locked down on a building size type and then get a user that's totally different, then we'd be right back here and you would say, well, that was already approved, and then we'd have the quandary. Comments on 7A?
Let's see who will read from R1 to C2. I think before we can do anything with the R1 to C2, we need to talk about the uses for the restrictions. Yes, thank you, for just the one lot, which is currently residential, abutting residential, and want to make sure that any commercial uses there would be more fitting for being next to a residential property.
think they just had mentioned that maybe limiting that to professional office buildings.
For that, and that looks like a pretty small parcel.
The small parcel.
Yeah.
We're not looking for no high retail impact there. Kathleen, did you have a list of uses already?
Yeah, I sent them at just kind of some restrictions. There, it was a little more open than, and I apologize, I didn't have, I thought I had an extra one. Used, but I don't. Right, I
This next one right here.
Yeah, there.
Yeah.
I marked on the
For yeah.
Anything is highlighted, you're saying okay or not?
I would say restrict the things that were highlighted.
It will be
When I
at this
first
point.
brushed through.
I'm not with, not, that has to come in the site plan.
I would repeat it, so you only now restrict
Or
where.
there's some, and they may want some more. I didn't, honestly, I didn't spend a lot of time. I went through really quick, so.
But essential change, that's right.
Then they'd have to come back. I don't think there's a hotel on there anymore.
They
would.
I didn't spend a lot of time going through it.
Well, what if they have to redo all of this, the basins and everything?
That has to be redone.
Right?
See, that's what he's saying, is that he doesn't know any of that until he can go through the engineering, but he wants to make sure the council should work out, which I think he's gonna spend a lot of money planning storm sewers.
Oh, I get that too, but doing one actually. You get the concept, you get the whatever, somebody will figure out at 5 o'clock.
He's right in that we have put limitations on stuff he has to provide.
Because he just has no idea yet.
So our ordinance demands that. I ask a question.
Yeah,
Can I ask a question?
sure.
Excuse me, Ron Anderson, City Council. Could you give us some addresses of commercial developments that you have done at Ankeny or wherever that we can go over and take a look at? Say, well, we like this, no, we don't like that. See what you've done in the past. Is that possible? Sure.
I don't know if you saw those from too. They did have some pictures in their response memo. Should have been in your packet as well.
Yeah,
I assume they were in the packet.
Mr. Gates, was it you at the last meeting that mentioned that you liked like the Prairie Trail kind of red brick building, that concept?
Yeah.
I thought somebody did. Was it
Yeah,
you?
well, I was hoping to see something more like a corner there where you have more of an L shape there in that corner so that there's something, well, like what's over there by the Hy-Vee store, the new Hy-Vee where you can come
Yeah.
over where that city cafe is and stuff. Something like that on the corner where we, instead of having it lined up along the street, have some kind of a little center there like that is what I was hoping to see.
The problem we have is he's developed commercial land in Ankeny, and it takes quite a few years to build out, and to put a lot of commercial land in Polk City could be a 15-year sellout or something, and the duration is too
I'm not
long.
saying that it would be any more than what's here, it's just be configured a little differently around that intersection.
And my point as a business owner, I'll interrupt, sorry, but I would want the frontage road as a business, because I want people to see me. That's your best advertisement dollars that you can ever have. If you're tucked behind a corner, nobody knows you're there unless they're going there specifically for you, and you're missing that opportunity for customers. Sorry to interrupt.
Where I was actually going though with that comment was that we're friends with the developer who did that, and those buildings are actually, if any of you have driven by these buildings that Mr. Dietz is referencing, they actually copied those off of our office building that we're in. It's the same brick, same,
Right. I mean,
very
I like
similar
that
style,
style.
so if you're familiar with that, that's the type of look that we typically bring commercially. So it's pretty upscale, I would say, not saying that exact
I'm not saying those don't look nice and don't work, it's just that I'd rather see a little more community center approach instead of just having it along the street. That's all.
You're leaning toward the lifestyle centers that have more,
Right.
you meander through the parking lot, you different storefronts and stuff, and, yeah. Takes a lot of rooftops to support that.
I realize that too.
Yeah.
Sometimes I think we get a little
Rooftops
impatient
are
here to
expendable
get
on
something.
In looking at commercial lot 5 and what I've heard talked about so far by the developer, from our commercial zoning districts, there were 2 line items that I guess stuck out to me as perhaps would be good lines to restrict commercial lot 5 as being restricted to just these 2 uses. The one use is business and professional offices and agencies, about a third of the way down on the first page. And the second use is on the second page, second line, medical offices, health clinics. As the developer mentioned office type uses, and in looking through all of these, those are the ones that stick out to me most as being the office type uses.
It's probably easier than going through and limiting all the others.
I just put that they don't know where it happens.
So you picked out 2, is that kind of?
But yeah,
Where,
you're
like, a
trying to
daycare
make
type
it
facility would be
fit
on
our
here.
grid.
Like a studio banks, why wouldn't you throw that users?
Well, if it was the
Daycare would be
ATM,
under
what bothers
education.
me there with the nighttime sweeps of headlights,
Sure.
those kinds
So
of
they
things.
should have shops,
Yeah.
daycare,
We
preschool.
want
Actually, yeah,
that. We don't want that, that's what it is. I think that's an easier way to do it, is look at the ones you would. You guys have any others you would add to the list or not?
The developer was asking about daycare facilities, if that would be. Which is under education, childcare, and include daycare and preschool.
Oh, sure. I don't know that I'd have a problem with that.
Yeah, I wouldn't.
You're okay with that one?
I would be, I don't know about you guys.
Yeah, well, I mean, there'd be a lot of traffic coming in and out twice a day.
I mean, what about studios?
Yeah, again, they'll have a commercial entrance that doesn't go through a neighborhood. It would be directly out into Third though, so.
And this plan doesn't allow for a frontage road there, right? It's only gonna be.
No, it'd just be access off of
2,
415.
3.
Yeah, well, we've talked about how, that with the developer, I mean, at the time of platting, that we would set it up so that you would have, the lots would be interconnected where possible. There's one ditch there that would be,
Stop.
it's not gonna allow that to happen. But lots
too.
4 and 5 would have interconnected parking lots / frontage roads. And the same would hold true with 1 and 2.
I was gonna say, because you can't get another access to 4 really, otherwise.
Right, lot 4 would be restricted to East Bridge Road. So we'd have, again, we'll kind of work that out at the time of preliminary platting. It'll probably be vague because it'll be a little bit dependent on exactly where that easement is. It'll be dependent on the site plan. You'll want to probably have it like down your drive aisle, which is similar to what we've done in the past.
Well, even East Bridge, would that be right in, right out?
Probably with where that is.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we'll have to look at that. Mhm. Because when we're reviewing that, we're going to be reviewing it with a traffic signal in mind. So any restrictions will be based on a traffic signal being in place.
A roundabout?
No, there's not a roundabout now.
Make sure this gets added too.
Studios, they're wanting to add studios.
Studio.
It's on this page 2, about third from the bottom. It says studios, music, photographic, dance, and fitness centers.
I can tell you from experience, you have a business or an office next to a studio. Not good. A lot of times the studio's after hours, but it starts around 3 o'clock or so when school gets out, stuff like that. Gary, while they're looking at it, and if I can ask you a couple of questions.
Sir.
There's like 3 potential things here, A, B, and C, is that correct? Under item 7.
On the
agenda.
Yes, sir.
Right.
Okay, I'm with you.
Okay. So, the first one of those front properties, is that
That is correct.
correct?
That
we
would
see
be,
kind of in a light green here?
yes, that would be commercial lot 4 and commercial lot 5.
Okay.
Commercial lot 1, 2, and 3 are already zoned
there.
C1, C2.
Okay.
Yeah, the motion would need to say commercial lot C, 4 to C2 and lot 5 to C2 restricted.
We're going to name out the specific use. And then,
That's what you're saying.
and that's what they're trying to figure out down at that end right now, what to allow, what not to, right? And then the second one would be rezoning the PUD.
I see a typo in this, so there is some R1, and if you go to the front of Kathleen's, there's a little bit of everything in the area that they're looking at PUD. There's some R1, there is some R2, that's R2 restricted, and currently that is restricted to single-family homes. The R3, there's some R3 in here.
I think that should say R3 restricted, because that's what's restricted to buy attached. I think that's where your typo is.
Right. And then the C2 is what I just went through here. Part of this gets skinnied up. That is part of the C2.
Okay. So where's the typo again on D?
You got an R02,
Yeah.
and that should be probably an R-2 restricted,
R-3.
or R-3, and then everything else is correct,
R-3 or R-2?
instead of R02.
It should be.
You've already got an R-2
It should be
R on the next
R-3.
line.
Yeah.
That's the one that's missing.
Restricted.
Some of it was already R3, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, it was restricted to buy attached, but yeah.
Southeast corner.
Okay, then C, consider motion to recommend approval of PUD master plan. What does that mean? I mean, if A and B pass.
Okay, if A and B passes and you have a PUD, this would be the master plan they're going to start working off of.
Okay, and that's my objection. I don't have the objection to doing it to PUD. I think it's great that Kimberly's here and wants to do that. Commercial development, and I don't have any problems with the architecture that they're looking at either. I mean, it's just pretty standard today. Little malls and stuff don't really work anymore, at least in these areas. But I'm going to have a real hard time thinking that this master plan is, that we would recommend approval of this master plan, because I don't think it works. And I think there needs to be more thought and look at it and preliminary stormwater management and stuff. I'm not telling them that they need to go through this whole thing and figure it all out. Well, there's ways of looking at things and coming up with preliminary.
The thing with the PUD, the way your ordinance works, it's taught, you don't have a PUD without a master plan. Because otherwise, you're rezoning it to PUD and it's like writing a blank check. You don't even know what the parameters are. So the parameters on the master plan are what's noted. Let me kind of go through those if I can find the sheet. It's listed as in the exceptions. For example, that they're allowing some cul-de-sac on. It is page 2 of 3, because technically the PUD master plan is a 3-sheet document. Page 1 is your color drawing. Page 2 looks like this, and then page 3 has a lot of the notes on it.
Okay.
Okay, and so what by approving that you're approving a concept that allows cul-de-sacs in excess of 600 feet. So in other words, it's kind of outlining anything that is outside of your standard zoning, which is why these are the kind of the reasons that they're not just rezoning it to straight like R2. The cul-de-sacs longer than 600 feet, honestly, I don't even, maybe that Walker Court is longer than 600 feet. I'm not, at this point, I haven't measured them to know for sure.
Are you reading this off?
Bottom left of the.
Bottom left?
Yeah, bottom left, you'll see the exceptions
Okay.
right here, sorry.
And are you talking about C now?
I'm talking about C,
Okay, so
that approves the PUD master plan. But these exceptions will be written in the ordinance that is approved under B.
okay.
Just to say, following kind of the procedure you guys had. So
Be
it'll
on the
say-
agenda.
Yeah,
Just make
and when the actual ordinance goes through council, it'll say, approves the master plan that allows the following exceptions. A cul-de-sac in excess of 600 feet, as per the master plan, block length in excess of 1320 feet, because you are a little bit longer than that. If you go from South Third kind of through to, I guess where it hits Summer would be technically the end of the block there. It would also street frontage less than 40 feet on specific lots. For the most part, they are on that Summer Court cul-de-sac, but there are, your ordinance requires 40 feet of frontage, and there are some lots there that have less than that. And to tell where they are, there is a table on the second sheet that lists all of those lots. Also, the centerline radii on a collector street would be 180 feet minimum, provided they meet all the other standard, site distance requirements for SUDAS, as opposed to 200 foot for your ordinance. There's a centerline cul-de-sac on a local street that's 130 foot minimum. Your ordinance allows for 150 foot. So again, but they still have to meet site distance and all of those types of requirements. Front yard setback along Grimes Street would be 25 feet if you think of it as the side yards of lots D20 and D21. There's two duplex homes here, so that would be only a 25-foot front yard setback on what, like I said, it's kind of the side yard, but it actually is a front yard setback. There's also a reduced setback on East Bridge, and am I not seeing it? Is that noted somewhere else? That's not in that note, but there is another, the east, note E7, so that is over here. I'll find it somewhere. I can't find it.
Right here,
No,
20-foot BSL on corner lot for East Bridge Road.
Thank you, I know it's there somewhere, yeah. And then also the side yard setbacks for the single-family detached homes, they're proposing a 7-foot side yard setback as opposed to your ordinance, which has 8. So essentially, they're having some fairly large lots, but they are a little bit narrower in some cases than what you might otherwise see. So overall lot size is decently large, but again, they are a little bit narrower with a little bit less frontage. There's some of the lots on Summer Street that meet the lot width requirements that they've laid out at a location that's at a greater setback than 30 feet. So you'll see that those setbacks are more than 30 feet. We'll pin down that, pin down exactly what that dimension is. Again, it's a detail that we'll get into as it's platted, but that setback, those homes will need to be set back, and their front yard setback on the plat will limit those lots until they are wide enough to meet the minimum lot size, the lot width that they've got on their table on sheet 3, which is, they've got a table of all the lot widths and lot areas on sheet 3.
And are the exceptions due to hardship that they can't do them?
I think it's more that they want the larger lots, but they're looking at a product where the lots are narrower, but you probably have more area in the rear yard then. So it probably, if you're getting that size, if you look at the overall lot size, again, it's there. And Mike, please correct me if I'm grabbing some numbers here really quickly. The average lot size is 11,015.93 square feet. So the lot size is pretty reasonable. If you look at the single family lots, the smallest ones are all over 9,000, well, I guess there's one that's 8,500. But for the most part, they're larger lots. They're just narrower than, I assume, then that makes them deeper in order to get that area up. So the homes are gonna be a little bit closer together, both in terms of the side yard setbacks and a little bit narrower width.
And the cul-de-sacs are pretty long too.
Yeah, well, at least the Walker Court, I don't know, I guess I measured them at one point. We haven't, they've got street names on here for reference, obviously that needs to go through the EMS folks, so the street names aren't, but Jenna Court, I guess I don't know what that would be if you started here and.
He was being funny with that one.
Yeah, and that's fine.
Yeah. It's not very funny.
Yeah, Jenna East and Jenna West too, so, but anyway. So, anyway, I don't know what the length of all those are. Mike, do you know? Can you tell us, let us know how long, like this cul-de-sac is as you measure it from Summer?
Yeah, that one is about 600 or whatever it is.
Yeah.
The other ones are not.
Yeah, this one, I think they're pretty close if you start at East Bridge Road, go down to the T and then to the circle in either direction, they're probably.
Which one are you talking
Now I'm talking about this one. I don't have a scale on me right now. They might be a little bit longer by the time you start here, go to the T intersection and then up, but not substantially. They're not substantially.
Quite a bit longer though, isn't it?
Pardon?
The other one, that's up to Walker Court.
I do not.
Walker. I see Walker Court.
100, just really quick. I mean, I don't know. I mean, looking at this, it doesn't, this is really 1 inch of 100. It's not, I think. Oh, this isn't plotted. I can use it so I can't, but I can't because the drawing's not the scale.
Right.
So no, I can't.
EMS,
This drawing's not plotted at 100, so you have to draw it for that.
has EMS?
Sorry, there's limitations. That's not right.
That's right.
They're plotted at full size to make it work. Yeah.
That's great. I was just wondering if EMS had looked at it. I know they are concerned about turnarounds and whatnot.
The radiuses are what is inside by pseudo.
Said to get
About 600 feet by. This is probably enough of 600 feet as well.
600 right on Marshall.
Yeah, I think they're very close.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, this one.
Yeah, it looks like it's on the east coast.
I was thinking that was about 600. That's what I thought. What was that? That was a little longer. Yeah.
To this point, here to this
Yeah.
point, around 600.
And what is their concern? I mean, they like to have more streets, so we're not.
Walker, it looks like it's about 650 in that kind of range. So none of the cul-de-sacs are dramatically longer like you see like Oakwood or some of those that we've had in the past.
So I do have.
Turnaround.
Bulbs are set up so the radius. So what we're looking at here, okay, these lots are already within the C1 or
C2
zoning. These are the ones that are being requested to be rezoned to C2.
Yeah.
The PUD plan, or the PUD is actually this here.
The residential areas.
This here. But yet the master plan includes the commercial stuff or not?
They've shown it just because it technically doesn't include the commercial.
Reference.
Just good.
It's more for reference.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Helps you picture everything together.
Okay.
I'm going back to my original question here. And it seems like you're telling me that we can't approve, or if we approve B, we have to approve C. Is that what you're saying?
The way your ordinance requires a PUD master plan if you're gonna go to a PUD. You don't, and I gotta.
So why wouldn't we be approving that? Why wouldn't we be approving C before B then?
Well, that's how it's in the ordinance. I don't know.
Don't blame it on Gary.
Huh? I don't know how they put it on there. You don't do one without the other, whether they're,
Yeah, we could have either had it as a B and C together as a B.
Well, I guess, I don't have any problem with being a PUD, but I just have a problem with the master plan. I don't think it works. I don't think it's been enough.
When you say it doesn't work, you mean stormwater?
Stormwater management mainly, yeah, which when that changes, it changes the whole master plan.
It will,
If it doesn't, if water doesn't flow uphill, then it changes the whole thing.
But you're gonna get to approve, if we change the master plan, you'll get to approve.
You gotta bring it back.
And then if it works, then what are you gonna say then?
Well, that's beside the point, but if it does change, Mr. Cyrus, we're gonna have to come back and you're gonna have to like the new plan. I mean,
I just don't think there's enough done here yet. Sorry.
And it does say, a master plan shall be required for all planned unit development districts.
I don't want to vote against Kimberly coming in here and doing this because that isn't the way I feel, and I don't want to vote against this being a PUD because that's not the way I feel either. I think the commercial's fine too. But it isn't there yet. I just don't think it's right. And I'm concerned about the people that live in this city and this town and live downstream from it. And drops pretty fast through that whole area. I think it's just a bigger mess for us later on.
Well, yeah, I guess my concern, if we approve this master plan, this is kind of what we have, right? I mean, if you say PUD and you don't have it, because if this is what we're approving, then that's what we have, right?
if you get to the point
And
it doesn't
it's not
work.
like it's a blank slate.
Well, no, and it doesn't, there was nothing, when I read those restrictions, there was no restrictions that allowed them to not conform to the stormwater management ordinances and SUDAS with respect to, so there's no variation requested for that, so, or variance of any, and I say variance, it's not technically a variance, but a deviation from your norm with respect to drainage, they're gonna have to comply. If they have to, design some features.
If they're bringing it forward, it doesn't work, they're gonna take it back to the drawing board. They may bring back a new master plan for us with something that does work to accommodate
Yeah.
within the boundary.
Mm-hmm.
And then we need to do a new master plan for the PUZ zoning that would already be in place.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of depends on the magnitude of how much they're changing it. It's like, okay, well, if what we're doing is we're making it work, but we're gonna have to decrease these rear yards because we're gonna put a private detention easement in the backyards to address it, that wouldn't require a change to the master plan. It would be something that we would, and obviously you'd see those detention areas in the plat, and we'd have the easements for that would shown, but it wouldn't change the lots
There's no
or
major
density.
change.
So then it would not necessarily change anything. You just would move forward with approval of the preliminary plat. So again, it kind of depends on the magnitude, which they'll know once they start. And I mean, at this point, I mean, obviously, they need to have that concept real well, nailed down when it goes to the preliminary plat stage.
Who's paying your fees to go through all this if we have to go back through again?
It would be the developer.
The developer pay everything.
Mhm.
So you charge them by the hour.
For review of master plans, we do.
Where are we at?
7A. Still.
How much you went over?
And we are at just the 3 line items.
And I guess I'll just mention, I got Laura here, Lamberti. She's the engineer office that'll be reviewing the stormwater management plan. And has had some conversations back and forth with Mr. Shamsi, and will be, like I said, she'll be the one reviewing that, so.
She did provide some additional information to me today. We had analyzed all the offsite flow coming into the site, and then she gave me,
Bridge Point or Polk City Professional Plaza, there's a pond there that already contains water, coming from Edgewater and that commercial development there. And there's some storm drain improvements along Third that we had record of, which take water from down Davis. So there's quite a large area that drains through the property. But we need to not model it as if it's too much, because then that just allows you to pass more flow downstream without being detained. So, I mean, we did provide some information that for use with the preliminary plat.
That's correct. So we'll be incorporating that into our analysis. Yeah, because we had previously thought there was about, I think it was around 48 acres green on the south side coming into the site from the bridge.
I saw a number, but I just hadn't seen any offsite maps to know what you guys are thinking was coming through there.
So with their detention basin, that would reduce the flow coming on site. Because we had estimated that flow to be about 233 CFS. And we were proposing a release that was less than 50% of that.
But in actuality, probably the number is around 75 CFS, so. And
Because of the
go down a
detention
lot.
basin and stuff, so. We'll be updating our report and getting it to Lauren for a review. Laura.
Okay, so I would like to make a motion to recommend to council the zoning petition 1 for Crossroads at the Lakes for the rezoning of just under 4 acres from R1 to C2 commercial. That would be subject to staff's comments and recommendations. Would also be subject that rezoning is subdivided into commercial lot 4 and commercial lot 5. Commercial lot 5, even though it would be zoned a C2, would have further use restrictions. Only 3 uses from our commercial zoning districts would be allowed. Those 3 uses would be businesses and professional offices and agencies, would be medical offices and health clinics, and would be studios less than 6,000 square foot in size.
They had asked for childcare. Was that
No, thank you very much, and that is under education.
Yeah.
And education to be childcare, including daycare and preschools. Thank you.
I'd second that.
Vogel?
Yes.
Vogel?
Yes.
Triplett?
Yes.
Bowersox?
Yes.
Sires?
Yes.
Dietz?
No.
Aiken?
Yes.
There are 2 items left under 7. Is there any inclination to move this forward?
No, we don't want to. No, we don't want to do it without that. I guess where I am is these folks were here 2 months ago. They made a lot of changes that make me believe they listened to us and heard our concerns. A lot of them I didn't quite know how they were going to do, and they came up with some good ideas, and I was impressed. There are some aspects that I am very suspicious about, but as I look at it, if we approve the PUD and must then have a master plan associated with it, and something comes along where this doesn't work out, they got to come back in front of us, and they got to they got to make it right and come up with a different master plan that does work. And so it's my inclination that they deserve a vote tonight. And with that said, unless there's further discussion, I'd be happy to make a motion.
No, I agree. Just in good faith.
And, let's see here, my motion will recommend to council approval to rezoning of the Crossroads at the Lakes, petition number 2, for approximately 42 and a half acres of various current zonings to a planned unit development. Gary, can I incorporate the master plan into the same motion?
Yes, sir.
And then also incorporating in the 3-page PUD master plan as presented on April 14th, all subject to the staff's comments and recommendations.
I'll second it.
Go ahead. Vogel?
Yes.
Triplett? No. Bowersox? Yes. Flyers?
No.
Deeds?
Yes.
Holden?
Yes.
4-2. On the vote. It's 4-2, right?
So the motion carried, but I think you can hear suspicion in our voices.
If it doesn't work, we're gonna have to come up with a new one. I think we're all in agreement that it's gotta work, so if it doesn't work, we'll have to come back with a different plan that does. So, thank you very much, I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, item number 8, update on changes to lakefront office park building elevations.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is mine. Excuse me for a moment as I try to organize my area. Very quickly, council saw the the lakefront office buildings at the council meeting last Monday. That would be the 11th. And as you recall, in your packet, you approved this as the main elevation of the building, which would be facing Bridge Road. They came back in with a better elevation after being in P&Z, and I just want you to know that this was approved by council. This is basically for your knowledge and for the files. So this is what was approved. This meets all the requirements and even more so than this.
So this is the approved one, you're saying?
That's the approved.
This is not.
That is no longer germane to the area. No decision needs to be made. I just needed to bring the P&Z up to date because there was a change.
You want to do 9 too?
Yes, Madam Chair, I would love to do 9. 9 will take a little bit of an explanation, but if you look in your packet, there's a preliminary plat of 12 Oaks Plat 2. And 12 Oaks Plat 2 envisioned at one time what is now Southside Drive coming around and connecting into the cul-de-sac, which this street will be considered, or was going to be considered, lakefront. Because of that these two were going to be connected, we needed to come up with a different name. So this was going to be Lakefront Drive, so when it came to Southside Drive, it would be different than Marina Cove, this is, as it comes around, so you didn't have two Marina Coves and Southside Drive. So when the first preliminary concept came in, and some of you longer tenured P&Z members will recall that this connected. Yes, I'm looking at you, Ron. And,
Still bitter.
elevations made that so it didn't happen. A new developer came in and we got those cul-de-sacs. With that, now we have to go back to taking a look at this road, and it just doesn't make sense to continue to call it Lakefront Drive. So we have contacted the residents that are in lots number 3 and 4 that are along the Lakefront Drive, and they applaud the city's efforts to change it to Marina Cove. They feel that it can't be found, and they think that they'll have better rescue, better fire service, etc. Even though both fire and rescue know exactly where these two houses are, they would like to be considered Marina Cove. This is as part of our subdivision ordinance. Anytime there's a street change, this needs to be brought in front of the P&Z. City Council heard the preliminary report of this at the April 11th meeting, and we'll be looking at this further at the April 25th meeting. And I would like to give them your recommendations on this process as well. And the name, street name change.
Are you looking for a motion?
Yes, sir.
I make a motion to recommend to council the changing of the street name from Lakefront Drive to Marina Cove for the 2 lots in the southeast section of the Marina Cove development.
Second.
Okay. Bowersox?
Yes.
Sires?
Sure.
Yes.
Jenkins?
Yes.
Vogel?
Yes.
Triplett? Yes. Item number 10.
That again is me.
Awesome.
Thank you, Madam Chair. There's been a lot of discussion lately on bees and beekeeping. The city of West Des Moines has gone through a series of hearings and are changing their ordinances to allow bees and beekeepers to keep bees within inside the city limits. That being said, as the Des Moines Register and other interested media outlets started taking a look, they questioned whether or not Polk City had an adequate ordinance to restrict bees to the agricultural area. And that is where we restrict the bees, even though it doesn't specifically say bees. The reason this is in front of you tonight is we want to fill the loopholes within inside our ordinance on beekeeping. We want to make sure that the P&Z is in step with the council in wanting these only in agricultural areas, and that you are not considering these to be in residential areas.
So if I wanted to put a beehive on my lot back by the creek, I couldn't? Is that what you're saying?
You would have to, first off, it'd have to be zoned agricultural, be large enough to be zoned agricultural, which is 10 acres.
So no, I cannot have bees, is what you're saying?
That would be correct.
She's thinking.
Unless I sneak them.
And I can't have bees in my townhouse.
In it or on the ground.
So what is it that what is it that council wants?
This is not my time to talk.
Just concurrence that when we go to strengthen our ordinance, that we keeping it in agricultural meets the wishes and desires of the P&Z as well.
Well, has this become an issue around?
It became a huge issue in West Des Moines.
Like people have them in their backyards, you mean?
Yeah, that's exactly what they wanted. And then they got into how many feet, buffer zones, and all of this type of stuff. We have had only one person ever ask to have bees in Polk City since I've been here. And I think the question came as West Des Moines started looking into allowing bees within the residential district. My conversations with people in West Des Moines, they wish the matter would just go away. However, P&Z wanted to allow bees in the residential area. Being allergic to bees, I'm not a big fan. But I want to make sure that if you did want to have bees in other zoning districts, that this would be the first place to address it. And if you're in agreement with our current practice and our current interpretation of the code, which means it will be in agricultural, we will tighten up those loopholes.
I'd like to see it in PUDs.
I'm sorry, Deborah?
I'd like to see it in PUDs.
Bees? Yeah.
And chickens.
Chickens too.
Could you roll them out of order?
Yes. Well, honestly, I have to just say, I have honestly considered having bees. I'm sorry.
Why?
Because I think there's a need, and I think there's something about the having your own honey and the good it does for your allergies and all those kind of good things. And I think on my 1.3 acre lot, and if I put the hives down by the creek, there isn't anybody around there. But we're a PUD, you know, those kind of things. And that's where I was thinking if I was going to put one, that's where I put it, because you have to have a water source for the bees. That would be the other thing. But I have to honestly say I've done a little bit of research and I was considering it. Sorry, not to tell you.
Have you ever done any research on bees and noted that when you do have a beehive, kind of how it populates? It really populates. So it's not you may start out something small and individual, but because that's there and the way everything happens, then it really explodes.
Out of control.
And that's, I think, maybe, I understand what you're saying, but I think that might be a potential problem. That how do you control that? You say you can only have 6 bees or what?
Yeah, I can't, but then you wouldn't have a colony and then it'd be bad.
Yeah, no, I understand your concern and what you're saying, but the concern to me would be that it would grow and grow and grow, and it would just be might become a real hazard.
You'd see a movie.
You could.
The only concern I would have would be in if we would annex new property or if we would rezone some existing ag land into residential, that there would be some sort of a grandfathering provision.
Generally not, because as you're going through the planning process, you're going to identify those things. And there would be, yes, if that developer really wants those bees.
No, I'm more thinking of existing residents, like especially in the northwest part of, or northeast part of our current community, that have some really big lots out there.
Like on
And I mean, they could already have bees, and if we start
If they were
doing.
annexed, they would come in as A1, so they would be, so unless they chose to rezone, they would be coming in as agricultural anyway, so then they would be allowed to have it because they would come in as A1.
Okay.
Until it was further developed.
Mm-hmm. Right.
On your zoning map that is on the wall that is to the right, Mr. Dietz, everything that's in green is considered agricultural. So as additional property came in, as additional property came in, it would be automatically zoned agricultural until such time as rezoning took place.
Can I give some history?
Please.
We've had bees in Polk City before. And the complaints far outnumber what we're glad to have them. And having worked in the elementary school for 35 years, the number of kids with allergies has gone up and up.
And that's why people are starting to go towards the honey and introducing it to the kids and whatnot, is because of the allergies. It's supposed to help with that, and you're supposed to have local. But no, I get what you're saying, but. Can we just leave it as it is? I suppose that's your ag.
I'm sorry, can you have what?
Could we just leave it as it is, and then if somebody like myself wanted to, we could petition the city and change all that stuff, but.
If the interpretation that we've had has been, it's always been an ag, because it falls along the husbandry, the chickens, the eggs and all of that type of stuff, the ducks and the horses and everything else. At least that's always been our interpretation, and that's the way we've been standing behind it. Although, when I was told that a bee is not an animal, it gave us a cause to pause for a second and say, okay, if we're going to continue on with this, we're probably going to need to strengthen that portion of our code.
So you want us to say that, yes, we will consider it as agriculture? Or what happens if we just leave it alone?
What I'm asking is basically, do you want to see it to continue only in agricultural, or do you want to open it up to any other districts?
And do we want to change the wording so it's more specific, including bees, because they aren't animals?
They're insects.
All right?
I'm sorry, Judge.
You gotta wake up when it comes to these meetings.
For some reason, I'm just having a hard time hearing back here today.
I'm sorry. And I further went on and said, we want to be more specific with our terminology and definition and put the word bees in because they're not an animal. They're actually
Correct.
an insect.
And we found out they're not a chicken, we found that, yes, exactly. I mean, for years, this section of the code has stood on what is allowed, and just in the last 3 months, it's like, wow, this is interesting, bees.
We do have somebody that's pushing the matter because I got a phone call and I'm not the only one.
Okay. For to have it or not to have it?
To have it.
Okay.
And it didn't sound very rational to me because it's, I want all the bees I can get type of attitude. I want to save the world.
So do you need a motion, or what do you need from us?
Probably not a motion unless you want to change or add it into other districts, which would be a recommendation to council to say add it into PUDs. If I may go off of one of Doug's more facetious moments.
I would lean towards ag, I guess, keeping it there, but that's just my opinion.
It would be very difficult to come up with an ordinance to regulate that kind of thing and the insurance provisions that someone would need and trying to dictate that, and, you know, it's just, I don't think we want to go there.
against them, but, yeah, my kids do.
I do, when I'm not.
I have enough wasps, it seems like.
Well, they're supposed to like hang out, but wasp can kill them. Anyway, it's a long story, but yeah.
What do you guys think?
I agree. I think it.
Just leave it in ag and define bees as part of ag? Or add bees to your ag?
Okay, we'll move on.
I'll stick with the discussion at hand. I hope this is in our packet for discussion, that way I can say more about it, because I've been instructed not to try and influence you guys' votes. So then I'll relate some more about these bees and what happened in the past and why we need to control it. And also I'd like to say that we're progressing in our search for a new police chief. We have 75 applicants, is that right?
Wow. I think that's about right. I think that's right.
Then it's gonna get narrowed down to 15, then 10, then 5 for interviews. We will be doing the interviews in
May 17th.
Middle of May, and hopefully we can find a good candidate and get that in the books and move forward. Other than that, I don't have anything.
Is there a requirement that they have to live in town?
Pardon?
Is there a requirement that they need to live in Polk City? I'm just curious.
Is it legal? Can't do that, can you?
It's not, but that's going to be a question we're going to ask.
Okay.
Because to me, that says a lot. If you say, no, I'm going to live in Des Moines.
If it's illegal to do, you can't ask the question.
We can ask the question where they plan to live. We cannot require them to have a residency.
I've been told that the way you get around that is you put a requirement that they have to have so many minutes response time.
Yes, the way other departments are. In Des Moines, 25 minutes.
Okay.
But I think that if you have a administrative and a high-profile position like the police chief, I would think that the majority of the residents would want that person to live in town.
Yeah, it's a kind of a different thing, but, you know, Ferndale used to say all their employees had to live in Ferndale.
Yeah.
And they got a lot of trouble.
If anybody knows my history and how I vote, I will hire a local if qualifications are even close. I like people with a vested interest in our town.
Do we, well, maybe I can't ask this, but do we have, I guess it's open, do we have candidates from our own police force?
Do not.
I'm not sure. I haven't seen all I haven't seen them all.
Do not know that yet.
I know we didn't for the temp job. We did not.
But we'll see what these fall. The process will be basically 3 groups that will be interviewing. There'll be a police professional group that's made up of a sheriff, a police department, as well as a member from the Iowa State Patrol. There will be a department heads that will also be interviewing, and there will be the city administrator, mayor, and council interviewing, which would be the 3rd. And hopefully by the end of the process, which we're looking at to be about 5 hours, we will have a new police chief that we can hire.
That's all I have.
That's it? 5 hours for each of the 5?
No, it'll be 5 hours total. That will take, we rotate the people around.
Staff report?
I have nothing at this time.
Commission?
Oh, I have a quick item, hopefully. We now have a site plan for the lakefront office park and also have a site plan for the church to the west. So I want to bring up the issue again, and both of those properties on their site plan have a bike trail going across the front of the property. So would like to bring up the issue again of the bike trail connector from those bike trails across the ditch to the driveway of the parking lot for the Neil Smith Trail, which if I'm have looked at it right, if it was on the east side of that entryway, it'd be on about the property line of those two properties on the north. If it was on the west side, it'd be more on the church property. But I cut through there a lot. I'm able-bodied. I don't mind running up the shoulder. But I see a lot of people from Edgewater with their kids walking up the shoulder, and saw a lady with a stroller the other day walking up the shoulder. And once we get the bike trail on the north side, I really believe we need that connector across the ditch. And if it can be done to save expenses with one of those two projects, it seems like it would be a good time. And I realize that won't be easy working with the state, but just wanted to bring that up.
Well, and I want to position it, make sure site distance is good too, because there are some site distance issues in that general area. I guess I'd have to look to see where that is, but.
So I wasn't sure what the next step was, but thought I'd bring it up so that you can,
We will start working, the hardest part is DOT, so.
What kind of connector would that be? Would that be underneath?
Oh, no, it would just be essentially a drive-in, but not for vehicles. But we would have the bike trail going out to meet up with the driveway on the other side. The parking lot driveway.
Where would that be?
Here? That would be right there. Yeah, right there.
Oh, to bring this, you're bring it across this
There's
way.
a parking lot there.
Yeah, okay, I got you.
And everybody from the Edgewater area comes up to Tyler and has to walk on the street and get that 150. Oh, it's in our comprehensive plan.
Living where I do, I know water. How many drops they make.
Okay, motion to, anything else? Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Excellent.
Yes, I know, it was handled very nice.
All in favor, aye.
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 Do we even need that? I always thought you only need one motion to adjourn. And you really technically don't need a second, and you don't need it to.
My wife enjoyed being here.
I'm sorry.
Oh, thank you.
I always thought you only needed one
That's right,
motion
she's a lot
to
of
adjourn
fun.
the meeting, not a second or a, all in favor.
All in favor?
She's returned.
Yeah.
Well, we got a lot.
But it's, any motion is to,
How much?
from what I understand.
But I mean, to like.
We're digging through my back.